So I've been looking for a wide-angle lens for quite some time now for this camera. The one thing that I've struggled with my Lumix G7 is that it's a crop-censored camera, which means it doesn't quite have the wide angle that I really want it to have. It's more cropped in like this. But I think I found a solution with the Rokinon 10mm 2.8 lens. At the 10mm mark, you're going to get a really wide-angle field of view with this lens, and at a 2.8 f-stop, I mean, you're going to get a nice background blur as well, and it's going to allow a lot of light in to a lens as well. Now with this review, we're going to be taking a look at a couple different things. First, we're going to test the lens, video and photo. Second, we're going to take a look at the form factor. And third, we're going to take a look at, well, who is this lens for? And real quick before we dive into testing the lens, if you guys like videos like this, please be sure to leave a video a like. We'd greatly appreciate it. It helps the video get further in the algorithm. And if you want to see more content like this, please feel free to subscribe. Would greatly appreciate it. So whenever I'm testing a new lens or a new camera, I always like to go to Montana de Oro State Park here in Central Coast, California. It's just a good place to test out new cameras, and it's at the beach, nice sunsets. I mean, it's just a nice place to be. So that's where we went to go test this lens out. Now my buddy Dawson, my brother Eric, and I, we all went out to Montana de Oro the other day, and we shot video and photo with this lens and my camera. Now not only did we shoot video and photo with this lens and this camera, but I also handed Dawson my iPhone 12 Pro for comparison purposes. So don't worry, I'll label the iPhone footage as well as the footage from the Lumix G7 with the 10mm lens. So here's a little B-roll footage of what we got at Montana de Oro. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little B-roll sequence. That was really fun to film and shoot and all that stuff outside the other day. It was really great. It's nice to get out. Now, after reviewing all of the footage and photos that we took, I mean, don't get me wrong, this lens is solid. It's good, but I still am impressed by the iPhone 12. Here we go. Boom. iPhone 12. I was really impressed with this. You know, I just handed my phone to Dawson, who does not do video, doesn't film video, and he actually got some pretty decent shots, I have to admit. Good job, Dawson. So now that you've seen some of the video with the lens, let's take a look at some of the photos that I took and see if they're any good. All right, photo number 1. This is a photo I took. I mean, with this being a 10mm lens, I mean, you can obviously take landscapes, and this is a nice landscape that I saw. And I mean, you're getting some sunspot there on the bottom right. Again, that's partially my fault because I kind of aimed the camera at the sun. My bad. But everything's still really clear, and I think with the next photo over, let me see. Okay, yeah, here we go. So I framed that away from the sun. Again, you're getting a lot of clarity. Still really good photos. I wish the waves were more crashing and booming, but the tide hadn't come in yet, so it was unfortunate, but still cool photos. All right, next photo. This is one where I found a little canal where the water came in, and I saw this green moss, and I thought it was really cool, so I got up next to it to take a photo of it, and honestly, I'm really happy with the clarity that the lens got of the moss. If you zoom into it, it looks really clear and looks really good. Now, the problem with a photo like this is it's really bright outside. It wasn't quite golden hour yet, the sun hadn't quite set, and as you can tell, the sky is overexposed. With this lens, you can't actually put an ND filter on it, sadly, so it's really tough in bright light. And with photo like this, in photography in general, sometimes you have to choose what you want to expose, and here you either had to choose to expose the rock or the sky, and I chose to expose for the rock. So again, I could go into Lightroom and, you know, fix the sky, fix the exposure, but, you know, again, still a good photo. I still like it. All right, next one. Ooh, this is a good one. Again, this is one where you look at the rocks and the clarity, and it just looks super clear, looks really good. Again, the sky is a tad bit overexposed, but not too bad. I'm not sure what's going on at the bottom of the, the photo here. Now, since the sun was setting a little bit more, I was able to open the aperture up a bit, and so I don't know if that's just out of focus or if it's just motion blur. Maybe I moved the camera a bit, which I'm pretty sure I did, but I still think it's a cool picture. This still looks cool to me. All right, let's move on to the next one. Now this photo actually is really great because now we can take a look at the bokeh of the lens. Now, as you can tell, there's an interesting rock formation here, which there's some cool rock formations in Montana de Oro, but as you can tell, the sun is reflecting on the sand in the background, creating these what are called bokeh balls. And a way we can test the bokeh is if we zoom in, we can take a look at those bokeh balls and we could see how circular they are. Now, as you can tell, these are pretty circular. They're not ovals. There's no internal reflections going on in the lens that's causing any artifacting or any warping or of anything like that. So overall, it's pretty good. Again, the quality so far, pretty solid. All right, let's take a look at the next photo. All right, so yeah, I did try to take a portrait with a 10mm lens. 10mm are definitely more for landscape photography for sure, but I wanted to give it a try with portrait photography, and this is the only one that was actually really solid. I took a handful of them, and this is the only one that was pretty good. I mean, you could zoom in and you could still see it's very clear. You know, Eric's face is still, you know, really clear in the picture. It looks clean. It's good, but again, I don't know. It's just too wide. I mean, I was really, you know, I was about a foot away from Eric when I took this photo. So for portrait photography, you really want to stay within the 30 to 50mm range. Somewhere around there, I think that's a sweet spot for portraits. But overall, this is still good. I'm still happy with it, but again, I would definitely use a different lens if I was going to take this again. All right, next photo. Let's go to this. Oh, this is a good one. Dawson is just kind of sitting down, taking a time lapse and looking out at the sunset, and this is just really good. I mean, again, it's one of those things that we could test the bokeh effect, and we were able to open up the aperture to 2.8, so I was able to kind of really, you know, clearly define the subject from the background. Dawson is in focus. The ocean, the sunset is not, and it just, I don't know, just looks good. This is probably one of my favorite pictures of the night, in my opinion. I really like it a lot. All right, last photo of the evening is this shot. This is, I don't know, the sun was setting behind these trees, and I just thought to myself that it was like safari Lion King vibes. I don't know, that's just kind of what I thought when I saw this, so I took this picture. It looks good. Again, it's landscape, so right in the wheelhouse for this lens. And I don't know, I thought it looked cool. You got some like cool silhouetting effect going on here, which is pretty cool. All right, well, those were some of the best photos that I was able to take with the Rokinon 10mm. If you want to see more photos that I took from this camera as well as from the iPhone that Dawson took, be sure to follow me on Instagram at JarenMock. I'll be posting some more pictures there as well. So the overall quality of the glass and the lens itself is pretty solid. This lens is kind of beefy. I mean, it's a pretty big lens. This is definitely the biggest lens I own, comparing it to my 14 to 42 millimeter lens, and then to my 45 to 200 millimeter telephoto lens. It still is the biggest lens in my bag. It's huge. Now, if you're a professional photographer or you have a full frame camera, I mean, chances are those lenses, you're used to that size. This is not that big compared to what you're used to, because those lenses can get big as well. But in terms of lenses for the crop censored cameras, for the micro four thirds, as well as the APS-C sensors, this is a fairly large lens. Now, looking at the rest of the build and what it's made out of, it is made out of plastic. It is not super high quality in terms of build. I mean, that's the aperture. That's the aperture wheel. It sounds like plastic. So it isn't super high quality material. Plus, I mean, this is all manual. I mean, there's no autofocus with this. It's all manual focus, manual aperture. Now, at the $350 price point, you really are getting kind of just the bare bones here. Manual focus, manual aperture. I mean, it's still good quality glass, but it is bare bones. It's the bare minimum in terms of a lens. But I still think it's a good deal compared to some other lenses that are around the same focal point and aperture. All right, let's talk about who this lens is for. I would recommend this lens to anybody who's trying to add another lens to their kit, or has a crop censored camera that needs a wide angle lens. I mean, this is still really solid for that. I mean, that's what you're paying for basically. So, I mean, overall, that's, I think, who this lens is for more amateurs. If you are a professional, I don't think this would really fit in your kit, especially if you have a full frame camera. You probably don't need a 10mm lens, 10mm prime at that in your kit. It just doesn't make sense. Now, some use cases where this lens really does shine. Obviously, landscape photography, that is the wheelhouse. That is kind of the sweet spot for this lens. It does really well with that. And another use case that I actually saw, I didn't test it myself, but I read the reviews, and this was being used for real estate photography. And then, yeah, I think this would work pretty well for that too, because you're getting a wide angle view. You're getting, I think, 92 degrees field of vision, and you can actually see all the room. It makes the room look bigger. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking at selling property or homes, this might be a good lens to take pictures with. Now, in terms of my use case for this lens, I don't think I'm going to be using this for photography. After comparing pictures that were taken with this lens and this camera, as well as this camera, my iPhone, it's a no-brainer. If I'm taking pictures of landscapes or anything like that, I'm gonna be using my iPhone. It's honestly crazy how good iPhones have gotten. I mean, we really are entering this new age of computational photography, where this is doing a lot of math inside to help you with exposure. Like you saw in some earlier photos, there were some exposure issues where I either had to choose to, expose the sky or expose the rock. And with the iPhone, you don't have to make that decision. It will do a really good job of exposing for everything. So there really isn't a huge need to go into post, go into Lightroom, and to fix all of these exposure issues. The iPhone just is getting better and better, and I am continually impressed by the quality of this camera. It's pretty amazing, honestly. But even though the iPhone is really solid, I'm still gonna be using this lens for video. Now, I've been looking for a wide-angle lens for this camera for a long time, because I feel like so much with my camera and with a lot of my YouTube videos, a lot of it's cropped in, and this is going to fix that problem. And so this is going to be used definitely more for video, and especially videos on this YouTube channel, more so than it is going to be used for photography. So I'm still excited to use this lens. It's still going to get plenty of use from me, so I'm excited to get using it. All right, well, those are pretty much my thoughts on the Rokinon 10mm lens. If you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. We'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more content like this, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Again, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you, and as always, I will see you in the next one. So this is the first time that I've been here that there hasn't been any like crazy amount of wind here. So we're actually able to get audio, which is awesome. So far, lens is working out great. Dawson's getting some cool iPhone B-roll. So far, fun adventure.